What's up guys, DukeSloth here, and today we're doing something slightly different. As many of you may know, I'm still in Atlanta and we're in our Airbnb, and right now I will review the patch notes, so excuse the slightly worse lighting, the poor microphone quality and whatever may happen. It is simply because that's what we have access to here. A lot of people have asked me to do the patch notes review. I am clearly late on this, but I felt like I could do this while being here. There's nothing I need in terms of equipment to do it, so might as well give you the insight that I have so far. I will play Morrigan a lot more next week, and then we'll talk about that a lot more. So for now, we'll jump into the patch notes. Some of you may be more informed about the character than I am, simply because she is on live already. She has been played by quite a few of you, and I don't have all the values in this patch notes. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, let's jump into it and give you my opinion on the changes and my information that I have. So this patch, the Phantom Queen, does actually not include all too many game changes, only minor ones that we get to. It includes the introduction of the new goddess, the Morrigan, and it includes various different skins, which is really cool. We're mostly going to focus on Morrigan and then have a bit of a look at the rest. So, Morrigan is coming into Smite, and she's coming in strong. We'll go right into her abilities. Her passive is Doomsayer. So the third hit on her chain will deal damage to enemies around her and weaken the enemies. So this means they will take damage over time apparently, and basically it is, for the purpose of her other abilities, actually considered a spell. We'll get into that later. I am not quite sure if it's considered a spell or a magical ability for the purpose of things like Gem of Isolation, simply because I feel like that could be that strong. I'm not sure if it's the case at the moment. We'll have to find out. Depending on that, her strength as a whole is a little higher or lower as well, obviously. The first ability is called Three Aspects. The Morrigan summons her alternative forms to her sight. When activated again, they focus their power together to damage and stun the enemies in front of them. What I find a little bit odd here is that there are two steps, that you have to summon them first and then use it. I feel like it has something to do with giving the ability more of a wind-up, but then again allowing you to only have one half of the wind-up at a time, so you can walk in prepared with the alternative forms, but the enemy will know that you're looking to stun them, or you can just cast them as you fight, and then it takes a little bit longer to get the whole thing through. So, new or rare mechanic there, which I think is interesting. The second ability is called Dark Omen. Morrigan launches a wave of dark magic at her enemies, dealing damage and dooming them for 8 seconds. Doomed enemies will take bonus damage if the next time they are hit by one of the Morrigan's damaging abilities, including her passive ability. This even includes Dark Omen again, so if you use Dark Omen, and Dark Omen will also deal damage, but you're mostly going to proc it with the 1, I think, or with passive. So, a damaging ability. Not all too crazy in itself, but an interesting mechanic for sure with that mark. Her third ability is called Confusion. She creates a phantom that she can direct into a certain place, where it is then just straight going to, and she becomes stealth at the same time and gets increased movement speed. If the phantom dies, or if it takes damage, it dies immediately, and if it dies, then Morrigan loses the bonuses from the ability. It seems like she keeps the stealth actually, from what I've seen in videos, but she definitely loses the movement speed. And then we have the ultimate, and that's pretty crazy. Her ultimate is called Changeling. The Morrigan selects a god from the current match and becomes a copy of them. She copies all their current stats and may use all of their abilities for the duration. She retains her own relics and cannot use consumables. The rank of her abilities will transfer to the skill of the god she copies. This ability's cooldown will be increased to match the target god's ultimate if she uses while transformed. I've talked to her as Ajax, and you can actually use all of her abilities, then turn into another god, and use all of that god's abilities. All cooldowns reset. And that's the part which I think is pretty damn crazy, because that means you can use her abilities, get a decent amount of burst on the enemy between her 1 and her 2 and maybe a passive proc. You also have the stealth, which it's nice to engage in that regard. And then you can turn into another damaging god and deal a ton of damage. And if you have Gem of Isolation, you can slow the enemy beforehand, which works really well for certain other gods that deal high physical damage, for example, and need to get close. She can she can do so many things that way. It's ridiculous. She can deal different kinds of damage. Like she deals magical damage, but you can turn into physical characters. So you can't just build one sort of defense and be fine. She also can do crazy setup for her team in various ways, be it turning into Ares or Odin or any kind of setup god of any sort. So there's, there's ridiculous opportunities with this. Just imagine double Ao Kuang, for example, double Nike, stuff like that. It's insane. Double Terra ult. So all in all, insane potential in this god. I feel like she's gonna be very, very strong, especially because she can apparently transform relatively fast. And the rest of her kit is also decent. It's not bad. She's got a hard CC, she's got dot damage, she's got extra damage, she's got an escape, which, well, to be fair, is not the best escape in the game because you don't really have an option to get over walls, but it's still a pretty strong escape with stealth and stuff like that. So I think she will be very, very strong, and I'm a bit worried about seeing her. But we will see how she actually turns out in game. As I said, many of you will know better than I do by now. But I think it is still refreshing to see her in Smite because she's so different from what we have seen so far, which I really enjoy. And if she needs some toning down, then so be it. But I think it's one of the more unique and interesting kits we've seen in a while. And also the fact that she can probably be played in both mid and jungle, from what I've heard, is something that I always enjoy. So she's got decent clear between the two. And I think she will also be very flexible when it comes to her builds. You can either go for raw burst, you can go for setup for whichever god you want to turn into and stuff like that. So it really depends on what you're planning to do that match, and according to that you can really readjust your options. And that, I think, is very, very cool and very fun. And there's going to be so much good montage stuff coming out of this god. And with that, let's look at her skins real quick. This is the default skin. This is her recolor skin. And we also have plenty of other new god skins. We have Woodland Rogue, which I think is also a Morrigan skin. I think it's the one you get from Twitch. Would make sense with the Celtic sign here. We're gonna listen to the voice pack real quick.
Taking your lives was even easier than expected.
Then we have the Celtic Terra, Spriggan Terra.
Your death will not be for nothing!
Also beautiful. And we have Oreseeker Artemis, also a Celtic version of a god. Well, that's an interesting voice pack. And we have Eldritch Ra. I think he is more towards a Cthulhu theme kind of thing. So, Lovecraft universe. Also, very cool skin.
Rendered unto darkness.
The question is, does Ra need more skins? And then we have Drumsound Raging, which I think is absolutely hilarious. He actually throws barrels in his ultimate. And, well, the references to Donkey Kong are pretty damn strong. He does apparently not have a voice pack, that's unfortunate. Then we have Spectral Sword Ares, which I think looks pretty cool. It's a bit more fun. Well, I wouldn't say old school, but you get what I mean, kind of skin.
The darkness binds us together.
Game of Thrones is what I would say, probably. It has a Game of Thrones feel to it. Then there is a new Ho Yi skin, which is, I don't really know where to place him in terms of what he looks like, but I get a certain World of Warcraft vibe here once again. Okay, that sound does not want to play. It kicks me over to another big screen. Then ALG Team Allegiance gets their Athena skin, which looks really, really cool on the card. I hope it matches that in game with black hair and stuff like that. Really nice skin. And we have the mastery skins for Ho Yi and for Ra. We're gonna show you the cards as well here. Hopefully, if they open up. And also for Kraken, apparently. I didn't even know that. That is interesting. We'll have to see what that looks like in game, because that's actually interesting, given that it's not his default color, but he's blue instead. Interesting stuff. Alright, we've got emote for a push, we got Team Allegiance Ward, and then we have the Path of the Phantom Queen. So, what this event does is it gives you access to various skins that are related to the Celtic Pantheon and Celtic, sorry. And those of you who have Twitch Prime will be able to get it for free, and those of you who don't have to pay 1,000 gems, as far as I understand it. So you get quite a few things out of that, which is seems to be very rewarding. It's 2 skins. It's a loading frame. It's a music theme. It's a pedestal, and then you get another skin at the end and a QT avatar. So I think that's pretty cool. As somebody who has Twitch Prime, I'm not complaining. Shameless plug: if you have Twitch Prime and you're not using it, you can use it on my Twitch. And with that, we get into the god changes. Bakasura, just a voice pack fix. Naja, just a glitch where it didn't. One of his abilities didn't use mana in melee range. Oddly enough, don't know how that works. And Skadi probably gets the biggest actual change this patch, because there was an issue which allowed Skadi to mark an enemy with Calder and get the bonus reward for Talaria boots that way. And because of that, the boots became very viable on her, because you could just walk up to the enemy early game, mark everyone and walk back and get all that gold without having much of a risk. Then Susano gets fix on the Typhoon, which apparently did more damage than it should have when fully charged. And there is a slight fix to Sylvanas, which fixed an issue where this passive was recharging at the incorrect rate. I have no idea what the rate was, but oh well, there you go. So balance-wise, nothing big this patch. Balance will be completely, overhauled anyways, just due to the existence of the Morrigan. So that's actually enough for one patch already, and I get why there's no other major changes. We'll probably see quite a few changes coming up soon, but for now, this is all. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this was insightful and interesting, and I will see you all for the next video, probably tomorrow again. I will hopefully go back to the old schedule, depending on how everything works out with my flight back home and all that stuff. Thank you guys for watching. DukeSloth, out.